So let's be honest, for many of us, that last video, happiness, all about how our culture pursues happiness in general, is a reflection of how our lives either are, have been in the past, or scarily, how they could be in the future. This seemingly constant activity. Do you know what it actually means to rest? I mean, to really rest. If I'm honest, I think it's probably one of the things that I find most difficult. There's all sorts of reasons why, I guess. My personality, the open-ended nature of my job, a need to feel valued by others, even a temptation to feel that my worth comes through the things I do rather than in who I am as a child of God. Maybe you feel some of those things too. We live in a culture, don't we, where the narrative is so often about achieving status through careers, excelling in sport, in entertainment, in gaining vast amounts of wealth or property. Consciously or subconsciously, so many people are driven to climb that career ladder, not only to find financial security, but also perhaps to secure a sense of purpose in life. Maybe it's the only way some of us can find to feel good about ourselves. If you add to this a desire for everything to be instant and a huge choice of ways that we can spend our time, it's no wonder that so many people can end up just exhausted, even burnt out. Slowing down then seems to be essential. But it can also be hard because we do live in this fast-paced, busy world. We're constantly bombarded by distractions, especially by our phones and devices. If our identity is rooted in what we do more than who we actually are, it can make us particularly vulnerable to burnout. Now, one of the best books in recent years written on all this is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. And in that book, he quotes the Christian teacher and author Dallas Willard, who responded to Christian leaders talking about pressure and busyness. They asked him, what do I need to do to become the me I want to be? And his reply was simple. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life, hence the title of the book. This isn't just good advice for those of us who are naturally driven, which I admit I include myself with. This is essential for everyone. It's an essential part of growing, I think, in emotional freedom and in spiritual vitality. So, what is rest? Does it mean vegging out with a box set in front of the TV? Does it mean treating ourselves to a day at the health spa? Could it mean sitting and reading a book? Well, yes, it could mean those things, and it could mean many, many other things too, at least some of the time. But it doesn't actually necessarily equate with complete inaction, with doing absolutely nothing. Although, hey, maybe there's times in our lives that's exactly what it does mean, just having a few days of doing nothing. I've been thinking recently about another related word, and that word is recreation. And the root of that word recreation is recreation, and that's all about being remade, isn't it? It's about us giving time and space to allow ourselves to be re-energized, to be filled up and restored to what, or perhaps who, we could be recreated. So running or walking or cooking or sewing or playing sport or playing an instrument or singing or, well, you get the idea, right? Rest or recreation will look different to different people. But one thing it should not look like is work. Now, I guess that's fairly straightforward if we're employed to carry out a certain role. But what if we're between jobs? What if we've retired? What if we don't have anything we could describe as paid work? Well, we need to work out what we consider to be work tasks for us. For many, it's caring for their family, bringing up children, running a home, caring for someone else in some way. These are the kinds of things that are important, but which we need to rest from. And all this leads me on to a gift which God has given us. It's a gift which many of us have perhaps never fully unwrapped, though. I'm talking about the gift of Sabbath. To practice Sabbath literally means to stop or to cease. It goes right back to the account of creation in Genesis, of God working for 6 days and then resting for one. Taking time on that seventh day to delight in everything that he had made. In fact, in Exodus 31 we read this: the Israelites, that's God's people, are to observe the Sabbath, celebrating it for the generations to come as a lasting covenant. It will be a sign between me and the Israelites forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. I think God is leading us by example here. This creation principle here is clear. It's one of rest, delighting, then working from a place of rest. This became an established pattern for God's people and is of course laid out in the Ten Commandments. It became a key part of the distinctive faith of the Jewish people. There were obvious physical benefits. Time to recharge emotionally, spiritually and relationally too. And if we take it seriously, it really can do the same for us. And what's more, we can apply the Sabbath principle to our lives, not only weekly, but daily too. And even as part of our rhythm over the course of a whole year. Times of retreat, times of intentional slowing down, holidays, they can all be part of this rhythm. So the Sabbath then is a day blessed by God and set apart for rest and worship. For the Jewish people, the Sabbath began Friday evening and continued through into Saturday afternoon. Today, many followers of Jesus observe the Sabbath on a Sunday. And it's true that Christians have always tended to see Sunday as the Sabbath, the day of our Lord's rising each week, seen as the day for our own recreation. It's certainly the day when most Christians meet to worship. And that's a vital and a good thing. It's essential to who we are as God's people, meeting together. But what about the other 22 and a half hours of a Sunday? How do we use them? Maybe some of us need to look at other times in the week when we can enter into a real rhythm of rest. And that's probably particularly true for anyone involved in leading worship on a regular basis on a Sunday. So look, maybe instead we can experiment to find out what works best with our lives and with our schedules right now. And when that time or day arrives, it might be helpful to begin and end our Sabbath time with a tradition, as many Jewish people do. Something like lighting a candle, pouring some wine, or reading a psalm. These can help us remember that we are moving into a different time, a time of worship and rest. So look, every Sabbath time should be like a celebration, almost like a regular holiday. And holidays properly observed mean we have to prepare for them, don't we? John's Gospel refers to this as the day of preparation. Before the weekly tradition of Sabbath begins, before the candles are lit or the psalms are read or the wine is poured, we go food shopping, clean the house, clear things from our to-do lists. For many followers of Jesus, powering down their phones and computers for an entire day, no social media, no email, no internet, can be a life-giving break from a world that is wrought with digital addiction. With our time and day selected, our chores done, our digital feed silenced and our traditions established, maybe then we can enter into that day or time of rest, worship, intimacy with God. So look, set aside a healthy window of time to spend in prayer and in the scriptures, either alone or with family and friends. Listen to the Spirit of God. Create an uninterrupted quiet space to simply be with him as you work to tune yourself to his presence throughout the day. Do you see how this dovetails with what we looked at in session 1? As we settle into a consistent rhythm of rest and worship, we work to cultivate and maintain gratitude too for the things that we have. By drawing our awareness to the often overlooked gifts all around us, a roof over our heads, food to eat, relationships to enjoy, so many things, we can draw our focus away from shopping, which seems to take a lot of our time up, and conversations about things that we don't have. And even learning about and experimenting with the best Sabbath rhythms and practices, we can realise it takes time, that it will evolve with each season of our lives. What works well for a married couple might not work for a single person. Family with small kids will have expectations that are unique to couples who do not, or couples whose children are grown up. But here's the thing. In each stage of our life, our hope is to disrupt the busyness, the workload, the media overload, this frenetic pace of life by slowing to a deliberate stop, finding a day marked by rest and worship. Many people find that building the Sabbath principle into each day is an incredible, helpful thing to do too. In session 1, we looked at prayer and how we can build that into the rhythm of our lives. Perhaps we can develop this into being part of a daily time of rest too. A daily time, however long or short, to cease from hurry. Time for God, time to rest, time to breathe. So what's the end goal then? Well, it's that the Sabbath becomes a regular part of our weekly routine, even our daily routine, where we set aside perhaps a little time each day, and certainly one day a week, to rest and to worship. And that you thoroughly enjoy that day too, learning to delight in God, in His creation and your life in it, recalibrating your body and soul to the rhythm of God's Spirit, and then living that out all week long. The questions for the session in the course pack and the table provided there, you can download it again below if you need to, gets you thinking about all these kinds of things. It helps you assess how you spend your time now, all the different things you do. To think about, is there an imbalance? How can you create space weekly or daily to find the rest that you need? One which life should be built around. In other words, not just resting from work, but learning to work, paid or unpaid, from a place of rest. And once we've carved that time out, let's think about what we might do with that time. As always, it's going to be different for different people because we all find rest in different things. So as you enter into this kind of reflection, be kind to yourself. Don't be afraid of experimenting. Sometimes we do need to fail before we succeed. How often is that a truth for the whole of life? So look, take this seriously. God created the Sabbath and the idea of rest because He loves us and He wants the absolute best for us. So may God be with you as you explore all this. You know, you might just find a freedom that you never knew existed.